right. So welcome in, everyone. Today we're diving deep into 19th century Brazil.
Through the lens of Senhora, no less, by José de Alencar.
Yeah. It's this classic romantic novel published way back in 1875.
But it's not your typical love story, though.
Right. Definitely not.
We're talking social critiques, a lot of them,
Absolutely.
money, love, all playing out in Rio de Janeiro at that time. Really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, and to get like the full picture, right?
Yes.
We've got, excerpts from the novel itself.
Oh, of course.
And some like critical analysis, all that good stuff.
It's going to be like a backstage pass and a guidebook all rolled into one.
Oh, I love that. I love that. All right, so let's jump right in and meet our main character, Aurelia.
Yes.
She's a young woman, inherits a fortune, and, well, let's just say she's not afraid to use it.
What I find so interesting is how Alencar really goes out of his way to emphasize her intelligence. I mean, she even understands these super complex financial instruments. They were called premios compostos. You can think of them like the complicated investments of the day.
Right.
Not something you'd expect a young woman back then, especially back then, to be involved in.
Yeah. It shows she's sharp. Definitely sharp. And she uses that sharp mind of hers to orchestrate this, this unconventional marriage.
And that's where Fernando comes in. Now, initially, he's head over heels for Aurelia.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
he chooses to marry someone else.
Ouch. For her dowry.
For her dowry, yes.
So how does he end up becoming Aurelia's husband?
Well, Aurelia, with her newfound wealth, decides to offer Fernando a dowry.
Okay.
A massive one at that. We're talking 100 contos de reis.
Whoa. Okay. Even for us today, that's serious money.
Oh, absolutely. And it really paints a clear picture of just how wealthy Aurelia has become.
Right.
But it puts Fernando in a really tricky spot, you know? He's essentially being bought by the woman he rejected.
I bet that created some, some tension in their relationship.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it completely upends the traditional power dynamics you'd expect in a marriage, especially during that era. Aurelia holds all the cards. And Fernando is left feeling, well, conflicted and, quite frankly, humiliated. And Alencar really dives into his internal struggle throughout the story, you know?
So it sounds like this marriage isn't just a plot device, right?
Right.
It's a way for Alencar to really critique the whole societal structure of Rio de Janeiro at the time.
Exactly. It's brilliant, really. By using this really unusual marriage, Alencar exposes the hypocrisy of the elite, their obsession with money, status, It's like he's subtly showing us how appearances can be deceiving.
And how does he bring all of this to life? What's his writing style like?
Alencar, he's a master of description. I mean, the way he portrays Rio, the clothes, the characters, it's like stepping back in time. You can practically see the bustling streets, the elaborate ballrooms, the opulence of the upper class, all of it.
It sounds like a visual feast. But was the language, accessible?
Yeah.
Or was it hard to understand with the vocabulary of the time?
Surprisingly, it's quite accessible, although some phrases, they are a bit archaic, which I think adds to the historical charm. And it's fascinating to see how Brazilian Portuguese has evolved since then.
Oh, yeah.
There's this one passage where a character is really trying to grasp these financial matters.
Okay.
And Alencar uses this language that really reflects, the confusion surrounding complicated financial systems of that day.
Like that day.
And it's like he's showing us how some things never change.
Huh, that's so true. Okay, so we've got this really captivating protagonist,
Right.
Aurelia, uses her wealth to orchestrate this marriage that really flips the script on traditional gender roles. And then we have Fernando, who's trapped in this gilded cage of a marriage.
Yes.
What I'm really curious about is how their relationship unfolds against the backdrop of this societal critique.
That's where the real drama unfolds, I think. And believe me, it gets complicated. We're getting to delve into the intricacies of their relationship and that broader social commentary in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay. Our listeners, stick around. We'll be back in a flash.
Okay, so we're back and ready to really kind of dig into this whole dynamic between Aurelia and Fernando.
What I think is so compelling about Senhora is how Alencar just weaves these big themes,
Yeah.
Money, power, love,
Right.
into the very fabric of their marriage.
Yeah. Like he's holding up a mirror to society,
Mm-hmm.
making us think about how these forces are, influencing our own lives, even today, maybe.
Exactly. And it all plays out so cleverly in in how Aurelia structures their marriage contract.
Oh,
It's
right.
not just that she's, buying a husband.
Right.
She's recreating the lavish lifestyle that he could have had with the woman he chose over her.
Oh, wow.
It's almost like a calculated act of mirroring.
There's this one scene, right, where she shows him a wardrobe.
Filled with all these, fine clothes from the most fashionable tailor in Rio.
Right. And she makes it clear that he can do whatever he wants with those clothes, sell them even.
Oh, really?
Which really highlights this fascinating contradiction. She's purchased his presence, right?
Yeah.
But not his heart or his freedom.
Oh, so it's a constant reminder of like the transactional nature of their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
That tension is always there, simmering right below the surface.
Precisely. And Fernando, while he, initially accepts this arrangement, clearly feels that tension. He might be living this life of luxury, but it's a gilded cage, as they say. He craves genuine affection,
Right.
which of course Aurelia withholds as part of her, revenge.
It's almost Shakespearean, this battle between love and pride.
Right.
Revenge, a genuine connection.
Yeah. It makes you wonder, is Aurelia really empowered by her actions?
Yeah.
Or is she just as trapped as Fernando?
Right. That's a great question. It's like Alencar's challenging us to really think about the true meaning of power and agency, especially for women in that era.
And remember, Aurelia is a product of her time, right? She's experienced firsthand the limitations placed on women in a society where marriage was often seen as just a path to security, not love.
So by buying Fernando, is she like subverting those expectations? Taking control in this world that offers her limited options?
That's one way to interpret it. There's this passage where she talks about her journey from poverty, right?
Right.
To understanding the power of wealth.
Oh, wow.
It's almost like a survival guide, a lesson in how to navigate a system that's rigged against her.
Yeah. It shows how resilient she is and how clever, but it also makes you wonder if she's, sacrificing her own happiness for the sake of revenge.
That's the heart of the dilemma, isn't it? Can revenge ever truly bring satisfaction, or does it just leave you empty in the end?
Right. And Alencar definitely doesn't give us any easy answers.
He doesn't.
But I'm curious, like, how does he go beyond just the story itself? What about his writing style? How does that contribute to the overall impact of Senhora?
Well, Alencar he's known for his rich descriptive prose. He uses vivid imagery, symbolism, really draws you into the world of 19th century Rio.
Yeah.
The way he describes Aurelia, for example, when she enters a room.
Yeah.
Like she commands attention.
I was just going to say that. And the details about her clothing and her presence, it's like you can almost feel the rustle of her silk dress and sense the weight of her jewelry.
He uses those sensory details not just to tell a captivating story, but to offer this glimpse into, the social customs and the aesthetic values of the era.
Oh, wow.
It's like a window into a bygone world.
And there are those little moments of foreshadowing too. Right. Like when Fernando admires Aurelia's beauty in her, simple home and remarks that she seems destined for opulence.
Exactly. It hints at her eventual inheritance and transformation.
Yeah.
It's as if Fernando, without realizing it, is predicting her future.
Oh, that's a good point. It makes you want to, go back and reread certain passages. Catch all those little subtle clues and really appreciate Alencar's, craft.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion. You keep discovering new insights and nuances with each reading.
There's so much depth to this novel. We've got, this unconventional marriage. We've got the sharp social commentary.
Yes.
And Alencar's captivating writing style.
Yes.
What strikes you as like the most fascinating element so far?
For me, it's how Alencar manages to blend romance with this social critique. It's not, it's not just a love story. It's a reflection on the hypocrisies and the complexities of Brazilian society in the 19th century. And what's remarkable is how relevant those themes still feel today.
I agree. There's so much to unpack here, and we're just getting started. So stay with us, listeners, as we head into this final act of Senhora, where the stakes get even higher, and the drama, it reaches a fever pitch. Okay, so we're back, And things are about to get interesting as we enter this final part of Senora.
You know, all that tension that's been building between Aurelia and Fernando?
Oh, yeah.
It really reaches a boiling point here.
Okay.
And the power dynamic starts to shift in a very surprising way.
Interesting.
Remember how Aurelia was so in control?
Right. So calculated.
Exactly. But now she begins to show cracks in that facade.
So all that, like keeping Fernando at a distance, denying him the love and affection he craved, that was all part of her plan for revenge.
It was. But Alencar starts to kind of weave in these little moments of tenderness between them.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Like there's this scene where Fernando gets sick,
Okay.
and despite her, efforts to remain distant, she finds herself taking care of him.
Oh, so she can't help it.
She can't help it. It's such a pivotal scene, really. It's like the first genuine act of kindness that we see from Aurelia. A hint that maybe her heart is starting to betray her,
Right.
and all those plans for revenge.
So how does Fernando react to these like mixed signals?
Right.
I mean, he's been yearning for her affection all this time. But at the same time, he resents, being bought.
Oh, he's completely torn. Yeah, on the one hand, he's drawn to Aurelia.
Right.
But on the other hand, his pride's wounded. Alencar really captures, I think, the inner turmoil that Fernando's experiencing.
It makes you wonder if their relationship can ever really move past, the circumstances of their marriage.
Right. And then, of course, we have that very dramatic scene at the ball.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
that? Aurelia faints, and it's Fernando who carries her to safety.
Right.
And the way Alencar describes it, it's almost electric. This sudden shift in their dynamic.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like this raw, unfiltered moment of vulnerability for Aurelia where she, clings to Fernando,
Yes.
declares that he belongs to her.
Exactly. In that moment, all her carefully constructed walls, they just crumble. And we see a glimpse of the woman she truly is, someone who's deeply in love,
Right.
but really struggling with the consequences of her actions.
Yeah. And it all leads to this incredible confrontation between them, where Fernando, having come into some money, decides to repay Aurelia the dowry.
It's such a powerful gesture. He literally throws the money at her feet, declaring that he wants to buy back his freedom, his dignity. He's rejecting that whole transactional nature of their relationship.
Right.
And Aurelia, who deep down hoped that, their feelings for each other could overcome this unconventional beginning, is devastated.
Oh, wow. So how does Alencar wrap up this complex tale? Do they find happiness?
Well, he leaves the ending open to interpretation.
Okay.
It's not your typical, happily ever after,
Right.
but it's not a tragedy either.
Yes.
There's a sense of hope there.
Yeah.
A suggestion that love, even in the most unconventional circumstances, has the power to transform.
That's so Alencar. He doesn't give us any easy answer.
He doesn't.
Instead, he invites us to really think about the complexities of their relationship and those broader social forces at play.
What I love about Senhora is that it stays with you long after you finish reading it. It makes you think about the nature of love, the choices we make, the societal pressures that shape our lives, all of it.
It's a story that's as relevant today as it was back in the 19th century.
It really is.
And beyond the story itself, Alencar's mastery of language, those vivid descriptions, the nuanced character development, it makes Senhora a true literary gem.
I completely agree.
Well, listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you a taste of José de Alencar's brilliant work. Senhora is a story that deserves to be read, reread, and each time, it'll reveal new layers of meaning and insight.
If you're looking for a novel that is both entertaining and thought-provoking,
Yeah.
look no further than Senhora. It's a captivating journey into the heart of 19th century Brazil. A tale of love, revenge,
All right.
and the search for true freedom.
That's it for our deep dive. Until next time, happy reading.